This is how your team can fix Salesforce before you hire a Salesforce consulting company like myself to come in and try to do it for you. There's actually a preferred amount of things that myself and any other consultant out there wants you to do before you hire us. Because if we come in and you don't know these things I'm about to talk about, we really can't even help you. So it's best that you go through this exercise that I'm about to show you so that you're more prepared to hire a consultant if you want to continue to go that route, or you can handle it all on your own if you choose to do it all in-house. So before you hire someone, try these things first. If you still hire us, it's going to work 10 times better anyways. So it's a win-win no matter what. Number one is, I would say, before I get into the 5 steps, Salesforce isn't usually the first problem. Okay. You guys buy it. You feel like it is because it's technically not working. It technically doesn't do the right stuff. So you think you need a technical person to come in and solve the problems. And then once that technical person comes in, all the problems go away. Really, what I see here is the Salesforce system that you've bought. It's just a reflection of the business. So if you have a messy business, you don't understand how the business works, the operations haven't been defined for how the business should operate, then it really just reflects that. You have a messy Salesforce. It's not going to give you automatic clarity by buying it, and it's just going to amplify the problems that you have. So really, first thing we do is actually start talking about how the business works. And this is where I would say you should start. So what I would do first is something like your sales process. You're eventually going to do this for every process in the business if you haven't already. We're going to talk through, how do we get the sales team from a cold lead to selling the deal? How do we get the marketing team from getting someone interested to passing that lead off to the sales team? How do we get the support team to take a new account from sales and go through onboarding and then get a 5-star review on Google? How do we get the legal team to send out the contracts and the billing? You get the point. You're going to do that for every single department in the business, and make sure you know what happens at literally every step of the way. This is going to be the first thing my team would come in and ask you. So if you don't know this, there's nothing we can even really start to do. What we end up doing a lot of the time is we do this with companies that maybe call us a little bit too early, and we can help with this based on what we've seen other businesses do. But ultimately, this is a business decision. It's not a Salesforce decision. So we can help guide you on what we've seen other businesses do. But if you're trying to do something different from your competitors, this is really going to be hard for a consultant to try to build anything for you because you haven't defined how the business is supposed to operate yet. Okay. So whiteboard it first, get in a room with everybody that you need. Try to keep it minimal if you haven't done this already. So for the sales cycle specifically, maybe keep it limited to 5 to 7 stages. So, hey, a new lead comes in. Stage number 1 is to call them. Stage number 2 is to follow up 2 to 3 times. Stage 3 is to send out the proposal. You get the idea. Go all the way through that and keep it kind of minimal. Have a clear exit criteria. When does sales end? When does marketing end? When does support end? Define those handoffs between all the different departments that you're going to be working with. Keep the language simple. Instead of using a bunch of inside jargon, ARR, MRR, that kind of stuff, try to actually say annual recurring revenue, monthly recurring revenue. Put that on the whiteboard. Put that in your processes. This is really going to help too when you hire more people. When they step in, they're going to clearly know what those acronyms stand for, the words stand for, instead of looking at an acronym and maybe not knowing what that means. So if you can't explain what's going on inside your pipeline or any of these processes, don't start touching Salesforce, because you're really just going to start making a mess because you haven't even defined how the business works. So you're going to build something for how you think it works. It doesn't really work that way, or we don't want it to work that way. And now you got to delete a bunch of stuff, or you have spider webs that you're starting to put inside the business because now, well, I built this and now if I delete it, it's going to break this. You don't want that. So just don't touch Salesforce yet if you don't know how the operation side works. Every stage that we talked about with every department should have a requirement to say, this has to happen in order to move the business to the next step. So in sales, again, what do we have to do when the follow-up happens in order to be able to send out the contract or the proposal? What has to happen to be able to do that? Define that for each department. You do not need a consultant for this. This is something, again, that we're going to be asking you. So it is really a business practice. This just makes you guys better, more efficient. Find out if there are flaws in the model that you're using, but more importantly, help us when we get in to be able to build out Salesforce for you. So please do this kind of as like the first thing that you should do. All right, number 2 is decide what matters. So what I mean here is everything should usually tie back to some type of KPI, key performance indicator, and a lot of the times that's going to relate to some things over here. Your revenue, a win rate, your sales cycle, the pipeline coverage, conversion rates. We want to make sure that when we are building out processes, we're driving to an end goal. If we just start putting a bunch of stuff in the sales process for the sales team to do, they got to fill out these fields and they got to fill out this information about the person. And, sometimes I'll see people get in there and it can be good, but they'll fill out a lot of stuff like, here's this person's hobbies, or this is what they're interested in, or this is what college they went to. And the idea is usually so that they can have more things to relate to them on the call. What I see in translation is that people just don't even use the data. And that's kind of what I mean. Like, what is this helping us do? Does this actually help us close the deal? If not, let's not put it in there, right? Let's keep it simple, have less clicks, have less information if we don't need it. Most teams want to then start building dashboards when they buy Salesforce. And if they haven't defined this stuff, really can't do that yet. Again, this prevents your consultant from being able to do this because they don't even know what matters yet. So we don't know what kind of reports to build. We don't know what we're looking for. We can't really help influence business decision because we haven't tied the operational side of things to some of these metrics over here. Ask your leadership to write these things down, top 3 to 5, and then each department go through with the team and make sure everyone agrees that that's what we should be working towards in order for the business to make more money. If you have any type of mismatch between leadership, don't start doing anything in Salesforce yet. Make sure everyone is in agreement before you start building there. That's super important. I would say number 3 is make it useful for these reps. So you have your workforce, it's your customer service team, it's your sales team, it's your marketing team, right? The people that do the jobs. And the reps don't want to use Salesforce in 9 times out of 10 because they don't feel like it helps them do their job. If they felt like it helped them do their job and make money and feel secure and that you couldn't fire them or they couldn't get laid off or they could only get promoted, they would use Salesforce every single time. So it's another reflection there that if you're having that type of problem or you're having that signal, it's probably a good signal to you to say Salesforce really isn't set up in a way to help them do their job. Take sales, for example. If we put a bunch of stuff in there that they have to do and none of that information really makes them close the deal, they're going to feel like this is a bunch of busy work and they're not going to use it. Reverse is true. When I see that sales finds a tool that helps them close more deals, they'll try to use it no matter what. Even if IT says it's not compliant, they'll try to use it. I've seen that personally at a lot of different businesses. So they'll use tools if it helps them hit their actual goal. What am I being judged on? In sales, it's getting judged on how many deals I can close, how much money I can bring in. If I can bring in more deals by using a tool, yeah, I'm going to use it. And that goes for every other company or every other department too. Your support will use it, marketing will use it, finance will use it. So set it up in a way that you have it geared for adoption. It's cool to automate stuff, but if it doesn't have people use Salesforce, it's pointless, right? So we just want to be looking to keep things simple. Look for adoption first. Remove unnecessary fields, eliminate duplicate entry. Don't have any hidden spreadsheets where you're running numbers. If you've committed to using Salesforce, use Salesforce for the reports. Don't have a random Google sheet out there that you then bring up in a meeting and then it makes everybody feel not confident in the numbers. So don't be using that. And then same thing with managers. Make sure the managers are coaching and using the data inside of Salesforce to help their team. If you try to add that automation before you do these things, like removing unnecessary fields, you're not going to have success. So before adding automation, remove the friction. If reps, again, see the CRM Salesforce as admin work or busy work, you're not going to have the adoption. And if managers don't use it, the reps aren't going to either. They set the tone. Number 4, clean your data. This is like the garbage in, garbage out idea. This is something easy you can do. You don't need a consultant to do this. Look through places where you just have data that's not being used. Salesforce should hold actionable data. So stuff that we're actually going to report on and the business wants to use to be able to make more money. Now, you're going to eventually, as the business grows, have a bunch of data that you don't want to delete, you maybe want to keep, but you don't want to store it in Salesforce because Salesforce costs a lot of money to store data in there. For a gigabyte of data inside of Salesforce is really expensive. So where you can, try to take historical data and export it away from Salesforce. If it's just stuff you want to have just in case, put it somewhere else. A lot of people in the future will put it in what they call a data lake. Some tools like that would be like Snowflake. And that's a little bit easier for you to be able to store the data on a more cost-effective way. So look through the data, get rid of records that don't mean anything, get rid of things that are causing duplicates to happen, duplicate cases for support, duplicate leads for Salesforce, duplicate leads coming in maybe for marketing that you're trying to send to webinars and things like that. Look for that type of stuff, duplicate accounts, standardized pick lists. So make sure, again, just like all of your fields mean something, get rid of those junk records, remove unused fields. Little tip here, there is a tool called Field Trip. It'll tell you, hey, here's all the fields that you've set up inside of Salesforce. Here's the percentage of records that have that. It'll tell you what fields are being used and not being used. It's a really easy one for you to do that. So when you do this, I would say it automatically makes you feel like you're going in the right direction. You have bad data can make good systems look broken. And when we clean this up, you might realize, hey, we're actually not in that bad of a spot. We got rid of a lot of duplicates and actually it looks pretty good. We can trust data now. You don't need a consultant or a firm to clean this up. Pretty easy to do. Again, they're probably going to ask you anyways. They might technically be able to do it, and that's maybe a different choice. If you want someone to come in and just take care of it, as far as I don't want to deal with the tools and getting all that kind of stuff, and I just want someone to just make it go away a little bit faster. Okay, great. They are going to ask you these questions, though. They're going to ask you what they can delete, what we're looking for, what we want to get rid of. So again, this is a good exercise no matter what, even if you still bring someone in. You don't need discipline or ownership to really do this either. This is usually a pretty easy call out of just, this is a clear duplicate. This is a clear thing we don't need. Let's get rid of it. Number 5, subtract before you add. This is what I mean by that is complexity ends up being a lot of the times the silent killer here. Too many fields, too many automations, too many custom solutions, too many one-offs. People got in there, they got excited, they went bananas, and they built all this stuff. They pretty much ignored steps 1 through 4, and they just built a bunch of stuff in here, and now it's just like a mess. And it's like, man, what did we even do with this thing? A lot of times people just want to kind of throw it away at that point or restart, get a brand new one. So just remember that the more complex you make something, the person building it, what I find, sometimes they like it and they think it's cool because it kind of gets to flex on, hey, look at this cool thing I built and look how advanced it is and blah, blah, blah. That's cool maybe for them. But at the end of the day, for the business, we just want things to work. We want it to be simple to maintain. If it breaks, we want to know how to fix it. So try to think in simple terms, boring stuff that's just going to work versus something that's super advanced. And that's what kind of the second point is. Best systems I see are boring. If you inherited this mess, I would say first focus on simplifying it first before we try to do anything else. So what can we take out of it instead of what can we add to it? All right, so what's going to happen if we do all of this, right? So 5 awesome things that we could solve for. What do I get out of this if I go through it? You're going to have more clarity no matter what. So more visibility, better adoption with your users, better reporting, faster decisions. You might realize that you don't need a full rebuild. Like I said, you don't have to throw it away. It's actually not as bad as you thought because you kind of cleaned some stuff up. Or you're going to know exactly what kind of help you need. Either way, you're going to be able to have more control over what you do. End of the day, what is Salesforce here for? It's to help us make more money in the business, help the business grow to the next level. We do that by putting a bunch of data in there, looking at the data, and then seeing what the trends are. Really good example is like marketing is a good one for this. If we put a bunch of marketing data in there, I can now see that maybe our best marketing channel is coming from our Facebook ads. The majority of people that become leads come from Facebook. And that the majority of the people that convert end up going and signing up to our newsletter. Okay, well, now we have 2 awesome data points that would say we should spend way more money on Facebook ads because that's what brings people in. And we should put way more money into our newsletter and making sure that that's dialed because more people that sign up for that and read it, more end up getting converted to more business for us. So awesome data points like that. Really, that's what we're looking for. You can see that once we visualize it and put it into Salesforce. That's what we're trying to do here. When it makes sense to bring in help, all right? So I would say $1 million, $0 to $3 million. This is kind of that space where you're just trying to make things work, prove that your business works. And so when you're doing that, a lot of times you don't necessarily need a consultant quite yet. You know, it kind of depends on, I guess, what you have built. There's always a one-off case, but in most cases, you're just kind of not there yet. There's just some stuff that you can kind of figure out on your own. Maybe you don't really have the budget for that. There's other leadership positions you'd rather hire for. It's just not usually the number one priority quite yet. So what I would say is once you've hit 3 million, think more deeply about this. This might be more something that's relevant to you guys, and start thinking through these four main things. Okay. If the growth you've now had, the scaling you've done is starting to create more complex processes, we don't just have 3 steps we take to sell the service or product anymore, that we actually have to think about what happens when they renew and what happens to the rates when we want them to renew every year, and what happens to the contract team or the legal team when we send out this bill and what we have to do there and the handoff that happens. And if that starts getting more complex, there's more steps and things to think through technically. That's a good indicator that's like, all right, we probably want someone that has experience to come in and just do this. Speed matters. All right, so maybe we can figure it out, but like we don't want to spend 2 years figuring it out. We want to do this in the next month. Okay, well, that would make sense to pull in an expert and do it. Internal bias is blocking decisions. We're all super involved. We all want this to work. We're all thinking about it the same way. Probably helpful at that point to hire someone like ourselves. So we work with just tech companies. So we help tech companies. We've built out 4 different billion-dollar tech startups. So at this point, if you want to grow to a billion-dollar startup, it's like, cool, we've worked at 4 of them. Here's what they did. This is what their model was. This is how we built it in Salesforce for them. That's going to help you get a different perspective on it, what works, and not feel like you're having to rack your brain about it. Mistakes get expensive. If I do something wrong in my role, I potentially can really hurt our reputation, or I can cause us a lot of money to be lost. If we get into that, that's another signal. Maybe I just pull someone and make sure this is done the right way. You could do a lot on your own. We exist basically because things do get complex and people just want experience to move faster. So our experience in this situation with tech just compresses that time. We've already been working with this forever. Everybody on our team has years and years and years and years of experience working with Salesforce and within tech companies. So we're just taking all that knowledge and just giving it to you versus you trying to figure it out for yourself. That's when it would be helpful. Why this is going to help the business in the long run: you're going to have more educated operators, stronger foundations, partnerships where you can collaborate. So you're not going to pull in a Salesforce rep or a Salesforce consultant and then feel like you have no idea how to help them. They have no idea how to help you. And then you just have a bad relationship. So no matter what, doing this exercise is going to help you in the business get into a better place. So even if you never hire us, do those 5 things. Your Salesforce is going to improve. Now, if you've surpassed this, you watch this, you're like, hey, actually, those problems that you just called out are things where, yeah, actually, we do have complexity. We do want more speed. We do have mistakes that would be expensive if we make them. Cool. We can come in. There's a link in your description below that's going to send you over to see if we're a good fit. We first just want to chat, see if it makes sense for us to partner, if we can actually help you. And if we can come in, we'll go through this process with you of the discovery, see what you guys want built, show you what these other tech companies have built at their companies and how we can apply that to you. So if that sounds great, like I said, click the link in the description below. Look forward to speaking with you soon. Thanks.